We are one, two, one. We are living in the world that we would never think about a couple of years ago. We're living in the world that we describe like world of pandemic. But you know, it's nothing new. In the history of this world, we had pandemics before. We looked at the history books, and they don't call them pandemic. Pandemic is really something that come up in recent years, but they call this a plague. What's a plague? When you open the Cambridge Dictionary, the plague is described as a situation of worry, situation of pain, situation of difficulty for someone or for the big number of people for some period of time. When you look at the plagues that happened in the past, the Cambridge Dictionary is describing them as a serious disease which kills many people. And when you look into the history, you can find big number of plagues that happened in our world. I chose just 3 of them because they show to us that the situation in which we are living now, even new for us, it's not exactly new for humanity. The one which I chose, it's a plague of Antonin. It happened in the 2nd century after Christ, and it happened in the period of 15 years. So we are 2 years in our pandemic. The Antonin plague lasted for 15 years. There was a Roman historian who recorded this plague, and he reported that in the peak, 2,000 people died every day. Can you imagine 2,000 people dying every single day? He reported that it's estimated that in total about 5 million people died because of this plague. And in some towns or villages, 1/3 of the whole population was wiped out. Another plague that I chose, it's probably the one that it's probably the most known among people. It's called the Black Death, the Black Plague. You know, this one lasted, according to the books, for 4 years. But the books are telling us that after the 4 years of the main wave, there was 100 different plagues that appear in different parts of the world as a follow-up of the main one. The origin of this plague is disputed among historians. However, majority believe that it started in China. I don't have anything against China, I just find this as an interesting fact. As a result of this plague, 75 million people passed away. In Europe only, 50 million is calculated. It's estimated 50 million people just in Europe. And you know, they tried so many different things. They tried bloodletting, so people can be cured from that terrible disease, and nothing helped. People were dying one after another. And up to 1700s, as I mentioned, 100 waves pop up in different parts of the world that were consequences of this plague in 14th century. And The reason why I chose the third one is because this was a follow-up. It's not connected to the black plague, but it's follow-up of the 100 waves that happened after the main black plague. It happened in 1720 in the city of Marseille. And you think people learned something. It's called the Great Plague of Marseille. And you know, I don't know, I let you to choose what you think about this. However, after so many deaths in the Black Plague, when this one happened in Marseille, it killed it killed 100,000 people. But you know what they did? You see on the photo wall, and this wall, it reminds after the Great Plague of Marseille, because there was an act of parliament that decided to bring a regulation that whoever from the city of Marseille would like to move to another territory or communicate with another territory, they introduced the death penalty for such people. In 1720, the parliament was so scared that they introduced the death penalty for those who tried to communicate with people from outside Marseille. And as an effect, as I said, comparing with the previous plagues, only 100,000 people passed away in this one. The wall that you see on the photo, it's a remaining from this plague, and in French language, it's called the Mare de la Peste. And it's going still across the countryside. Those are the 3 different plagues that I chose out of hundreds that happened among humanity. But when you go to the Bible, can we see plagues in the Bible also? You know, probably the most famous is the 10 plagues of Egypt. And we have all of them reported. And when you look closely to those plagues in Egypt, we know they happened. Why? They happened because God wanted to take Israel out of Egypt after the 400 years of slavery. But they are quite interesting plagues. They all aiming at one of the gods Egyptians had. So when you go to the plague of blood, it's aiming at the god of Happy. The god of Happy was a god of Nile, the river that was affected by this plague. Then you have plague of frogs. And this one was aiming at the god of Hecate. You know what was characteristic with the god of Hecate? This god had a head as frog. It's interesting that this was second plague, and the Egyptian magicians, they were still able to copy what Moses and Aaron did, and they still were able to produce frogs like Moses and Aaron did with God's power. But you know, it's the first plague that they were not able to reverse the plague. And the Pharaoh asked Moses, please, how long this will last? Tell me when the frogs will be gone. The next one, it's a plague of lice. This one was attacking god Geb, god of dust. And when you read about how the plague was attempting, you can find that the lice were coming out of the dust, and they were attacking livestock, they were attacking human beings, they were attacking everything. And you know, this is the first plague that Egyptians, magicians, they could not copy after Moses. And they said famous words to Pharaoh, "We are powerless. This is the finger of God." And then you have following ones, you have plague of flies, which was attacking god Kerpi, that also had a head of fly. The plague of livestock, the god of Hathor, who had a head of cow. The plague of boils, it was attacking the god Isis. She was a goddess of medicine in Egypt. And then you have plague of hail, locust, plague of darkness, and plague of the firstborn. The plague of firstborn wasn't attacking specific god in Egypt, but it was attacking the Pharaoh himself, because it was taking away from him the firstborn, who was about to replace him on the throne in later days. So the Bible tells us about 10 plagues that God used to attack gods of Egypt to take the Israel out of Egypt. I would like to today spend more time with you to concentrate a little bit on the 9th plague, the plague of darkness. You can read about this in Exodus chapter 10, verse 21 to 29. The Bible reports to us, "Then the Lord said to Moses, 'Lift your hand toward heaven, and the land of Egypt will be covered with a darkness so thick you can feel it.' So Moses lifted his hand to the sky, and deep darkness covered the entire land of Egypt for 3 days. During all that time, the people could not see each other, and no one moved." You know what's different with this plague? The difference is that all of other plagues somehow affected Egyptians in a very particular way. They were causing catastrophic physical, health, or materialistic losses. This did not really have any major or obvious consequences, because for 3 days, it was dark, and they could not move. They could not see each other. But think for a second. This plague attacked the main god of Egypt, god Ra. And if you compare this to the sin, if you compare this to our times, sin is something that not necessarily it's obvious in your life. It could be present in your life and no one will know about this. It could be practiced in your life and no one could see this. There is no obvious harm initially that it brings to your life. However, the plague of darkness, it's a very specific plague, because this plague is showing us there is no light. You can't have darkness without light. With the light. You have darkness only if the light is missing. And when you look about human beings, humans receive 5 senses. We have hearing, smell, taste, touch, and sight. When you think for a second about all of them, which one is the most important? Hearing, Yeah, this could be annoying when we can't hear, when the husband is not able to hear his wife, when you can't hear the coming car, when you can't hear the phone calling, but you can live without this. You can live without hearing. It will be maybe not pleasant, but you could. Smell, for some people would say this would be probably an advantage to have this sense missing from our life, because sometimes the smells are so strong that we closing our noses and we don't want to smell anything what's surrounding us. So you can live without smell. Taste, the whole pleasure of eating will be gone, but probably you can live without this. Touch, but sight. Imagine to live without sight, in complete darkness. Darkness so thick that you can feel it. None of those senses are critical as sight is. Why light is so crucial for us in our life? There are two answers that are coming immediately into this question. We are surrounded by items that are designed to help in our life. Think about winter and think about a warm burner that gives you warm. It's designed that you will not die because of cold. But if you do not see this, you can actually trip off and you can burn yourself. Think about chair, about table. Those furnitures are given to us to improve our life, but if you can't see them, you can bump in them and you can harm yourself. Things that are designed to improve our lives. Think about money. You can think, okay, I don't need to see the money. But think you have so much money, like a pail of gold. You are a very rich person. But if you can't see this, you can trip up and you can't walk in the darkness because of what you have. To see, it's very important that even you have things that are surrounding you, are helping you, those things are not a trap for you. Another answer to the question why light is so important, I don't know, I'm speaking generally. There are some people that you can call night owl. And they prefer to live in night. They're more productive during the evenings. Or they have a job that they work for the night shifts and they sleep every day. I don't want to talk about this group of people. Let me talk about, generally speaking, when the darkness is coming, when the sunset is coming and it starts to be dark around. Can you notice that you start yawning more often? That you start feel, oh, it's time for me to go to the bed. Light motivates us to action. When the sun is up, we wake up, we see a beautiful weather, we don't have desire to spend the whole day in the bed. We just wake up and we walk for a walk, we go to work, we're full of energy. Light motivates us to action. Opposed to this, darkness could create depression in our life, could create lethargy in our life. I was once in Norway, and together with the youth from Norway, we went for the camp meeting in summertime to the top parts of Norway. And normally, I never practiced this, But, you know, surrounded by youth, surrounded by nice surroundings, we played volleyball. And we play volleyball and we just changed the sides and we played and we played. We didn't really feel tired. And suddenly someone says, I'm going to the bed. And the sun was up. And we says, to the bed? What's wrong with this person? And then we look at our watch and it was 3 a.m. But the sun was still there. And we didn't feel tired. We felt still full of energy. So when we stopped playing volleyball together with my friend, people start walking to their houses. They had very thick curtains that they closed the windows to be able to sleep. But together with my friend, we decided, nah, let's go swim. So we went swimming, 4 a.m. However, there is an article about people living in that part of the world. And the article tells us that during the winter, they experience something, what it's called winter depression. Why? Because during the winter, they do not see sun at all. It's dark. And winter depression is still a mystery to scientists who study it. But researchers agree that people who suffer from seasonal affective disorder are particularly sensitive to light or the lack of it. You know, I spoke with people from Norway who are living in the top part of the world, and they love summer. But during the winter, they said that depression is so high that there is a highest number of suicides in that time of the year. People are not able to cope with darkness. The Lord said to Moses, bring darkness to Egypt. And the last sentence of this verse tells us, but during all that time, the people could not see each other and no one moved. I would like to ask you to think about this, not from the physical perspective, that when we switch off the light, we can trip off the table, we can bump on each other, we can't see anything. Think from the spiritual perspective. When, from spiritual perspective, people could not see each other? Have you experienced situation when you walk through the city and there is a beggar in the city, but no one really looks at the person? Everyone walks so busy with own business, with self-centered thoughts, with selfishness. There are sometimes comments that this is so pandemic in our world that sometimes people are having heart attack, they fell on the street and no one really care for them because they think they drunk or they think they drug users or it's simply not their business. When the sin is present, the darkness surrounds people's hearts, their minds. There is no light, and people start to be selfish. People start to be self-centered. They could not see each other. TV is promoting such behavior. Some of you maybe hear about the program Survivor. Some people like to watch that program. But you know what? There is a common comment about this program on internet. The comment says, this is the most selfish and greedy contestant may take home 1 million. To win this program, you have to be most selfish and greedy person. You can't be a team player. You can't look at others. You can't become connected to the other person. You have to think only about yourself and how to win the program to take $1 million home. This is what TV is showing to us. But are we surrounded today by darkness? You know, sometimes we may say, it's the world, it's not us. But think for a second about this. We talked about some pandemics, situations around the world in the history. But I hear in 21st century that, for example, very strong Christians, very committed Christians, they say that they don't know anyone from their family to be sick. So this pandemic that it surrounds us, it's not affecting them. And because it's not affecting them, they don't have to wear masks, they don't have to isolate themselves, they don't have to keep distance, they don't have to avoid crowds. Do you think we can classify this to something that we call self-centered? Selfishness? There are regulations, rules that do not apply to them. Some people say, I don't need vaccine, God will protect me. And when they become sick, they ask the people from around the world to pray for them for a quick recovery because they're suffering. I know one man who lived in Poland, and one day he decided to move to Germany. His whole family stay at home, but he moved to Germany and he got a good job, and very shortly he was able to afford to purchase a brand new BMW. So when I have new car, and car like BMW, what you would like to do? You don't park this in the garage, you would like to take this for a trip. So he decided to visit his family back in Poland. But he said he was a very devoted Christian. And I'm saying this seriously, I'm not sarcastic. He was a very devoted Christian, and he says, I don't need insurance. God will protect me. So he arrived to Poland, he parked his beautiful BMW in front of his parents' house. He went to the bed, he woke up in the morning, and guess what? The car was gone. Selfishness, self-centered, ignorance, when we do not have light in our heart. And when I was preparing this sermon, I searched for illustration that will say to us, Christian churches selfish. I put this in the Google. And you know, I was surprised, and I tell you, I didn't plan it. If someone wants to accuse me, I plan it, I didn't plan it. But because it comes up, I decided to put this on the screen for you. Christian churches selfish. And there was an article that popped up about ethnic Indian group living in USA. And they talk about how to become faithful Christians in USA when they left India, when they left their country. And one of the questions says, but people in India go to Indian churches, right? Are they wrong for doing that? This is about, should we have ethnic churches in USA, the Indian ethnic churches? And the response of the person was, they don't call Indian church in India. It's just church. We call it Indian church here in America, but there is something wrong with that. So no, they are not wrong for going to church with people who share the culture where they happen to reside. They are not imputing culture. They are just there going to church and experiencing, sharing the culture that's already there. Us, we are wrong from imputing culture on church here. I give you 2 seconds to think about this. I type in Google, selfish Christian church, and this came up on my screen, and I said, why? If I change the word India with Poland or Polish, let me read this with the word Polish. But people in Poland go to Polish churches, right? Are they wrong for doing that? They don't call the Polish church in Poland. They calling this just a church. We call it Polish church here in Australia. There is something wrong with that. So no, they are not wrong to go to the church with people who share the culture where they happen to reside. They are not imputing culture. They are just there going to church and experiencing, sharing the culture that's already there. Us, we are wrong for imputing Polish culture on church here. I will leave this here. Apostle Paul is warning us about danger of darkness. And in Ephesians chapter 6, he tells us that we as Christians, we could be also affected by darkness. Why? Because we struggle not against flesh and blood. We struggle against the rulers. We struggle against the authorities. We struggle against the powers of this dark world and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Can we be affected by darkness? Apostle Paul says, be careful, because this is the world in which we are living. Jesus said something interesting in the book of Luke. He said, when your eye is healthy, your whole body is full of light. But when it is bad, your body is full of darkness. What Jesus Christ is really telling here? Jesus Christ is telling to us, whatever we see, if we see darkness, our whole body is dark. If we see light, our whole body is full of light. If we do not see light, our body could be sick. But if we full of light, our body could be healthy. So what do we see? What do we see with our eyes? Solomon says, human as he thinks in his heart, so is he. Whatever is coming through our eyes, whatever it's feeding us, it's changing our heart. And if our heart is full of things that we accommodate there, this is who we are every day. Things that you watch, listen to, or think about, they shape your character. If your everyday life is focused on negatives, you surely will become a negative person. But turn this around. If your daily life is focused on positives, you surely become who? Positive person. If your life is focused on the things surrounded by darkness, your body will be living in dark. If you focused on light, your body will be full of light. In the book of Moses, we actually read that people were living in so thick darkness that they could not see each other, but there was light as usual where the people of Israel lived. So there was a part of the world where darkness did not have power, when light was present. How we can find light? In our life? How we can live in light? How we can be surrounded by darkness but our life will be still full of light. Isaiah, in chapter 9, he prophesied. He prophesied that people in this world who walk in darkness at one stage will see great light. For those who live in a land of deep darkness, a light will shine. There is a hope for us. We are not condemned. We are not living in the darkness and that's it. I can't do anything about this. People who live in darkness at one stage, they would be able to see light, Isaiah says. How this was fulfilled? John the Baptist, when he started his book, what we actually had during our scripture reading, he says about Jesus Christ who was coming to him. He says, in him was life, and the life was the light of men. This first sentence tells us that the prophecy of Isaiah was fulfilled in the life of Jesus Christ, because in him was life, and his life was a light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. This man came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all through him might believe. But John was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. That was the true light which gives light to every man coming in the world. We could live the best life on this earth. We could have the best message to people. We could be prophets in this world, but we are not the light. The light was in the man who came to this world, and this man was Jesus Christ himself. He is the light of the world. He said about himself, again, Jesus spoke to people who were listening to him, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of the life. In our world, today we have Jesus Christ revealed in the Bible. And the Bible tells us that the revealed word of Jesus Christ, it's a lamp for us. The Lord, my God, lights up my darkness, psalmist says. Your word is a lamp for my feet, a light for my footpath. We are Jesus' ambassadors here. We are obligated to live good life on this earth, but we are not the light. If we do not have him in our heart, if we do not see him in our life will be still in darkness. Only him living in us could shine the light to others. Jesus said, you are the light of the world if you accept me in my life. You can't cover your light. You can't take this away from people. You can't tell people, we don't want them here, let them go somewhere else. We are happy here because we have light. We can't say this. We can't cover our light if we really have Jesus Christ in our heart. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under the basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on stand where it gives light. And I have text cut it. Where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. Brothers and sisters, we're living in the dark world. We're living in the darkness surrounding us. But it doesn't mean that we would not be able to see people next to us, that we will be forced to sit and do nothing. If we accept Jesus Christ, the promised light, if we accept him in our heart, we will become light to others. We will become missionaries to others. We will become the ambassadors of others. We have to shake our selfishness away. We have to shake our self-centered approach away, our self-satisfaction. John said, if we claim to have fellowship with him, with Jesus Christ, and yet walk in the darkness, we lie and do not live out the truth. You know, very often we say during the sermons, it's not enough to call yourself Christians, you have to live as a Christian. It's not enough to call yourself Seventh-day Adventist, you have to live as a Seventh-day Adventist. The membership on the list will not save you, but acceptance of Jesus Christ in your heart, this is what will save you. Martin Luther King, he says the words like this: darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. We cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. He connected here light with love. If we do not love others, how we can serve them, how we can mission to them, how we can witness to them? Only light can do that. Only light can drive away hate, can drive away darkness. Are we ready to become Jesus Christ's ambassadors? To live in Egypt during the plague of darkness, when the main god of this world is putting on people everything to turn them away from God, the true God. Are we able to live in the darkness of this world and still have light in our life? Jesus Christ is inviting today you and me to become light to others, to become his ambassadors. And I would like to finish with the last song today that will be an appeal for all of us to start a journey with him and to bring light to this world.
There is a candle in every soul, some brightly burning and some dark and cold. And there is a spirit who brings a fire, ignites a candle and makes his home. Carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the helpless, confused and torn, and hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle and go light your world. Take your candle and go light your world. Frustrated brother, see how he's tried to light his own candle, some other way. See now your sister, she's been robbed and lied to, still holds a candle without a flame. So carry your candle and run to the darkness. Seek out the lonely, the tired and worn, and hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle and go light your world. Take your candle and go light your world. Hey now, hey now, hey now. 'Cause we are a family whose hearts are blazing. So let's raise our candles and light up the sky, praying to our Father in the name of Jesus. Make us a beacon in darkest times. Carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the hopeless, deceived and poor, and hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle and go light your world. Take your candle and go light your world. To the darkness, seek out the confusion. Hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle and go light your world. Take your candle and go light your world. Take your candle. And go light your world.
Our Heavenly Father, we live in the world that is surrounded by pandemic. And not only pandemic that affects our health, that affects our physical life, but we are surrounded by pandemic of sin. We are surrounded by selfishness, we are surrounded by self-satisfaction, we are surrounded by materialism, and we today would like to become a light to this world, to take the pandemic of darkness that surrounds this world and become ambassadors of a better life. But we can't do this on our own. We can do this only if we invite you to our heart. If you will start shine through us, if you start showing people that there is a better future, that there is a better day coming, please take us in your hands and make us the candle that it's burning and taking the darkness away. In your name we're asking. Amen.